I remember when I got cut, and I drove from Green Bay to Arizona, which is a pretty Green Bay, Wisconsin to Tucson, Arizona, and it's like a 2-day drive. And I just remember sitting there driving back, just like, oh, my life's over. Like, just being kind of like in that deep, like depression, whatever it is, sadness, like, hey, something potentially can be done. I had a real identity crisis. I had just all my skills, at least what I thought back then was like, I was literally born to be a football player. But I didn't realize all these other skills that I was building that were going to transfer to success, life after sport. And sad. I mean, sad. I don't want to say depressed. I was anxiety. I mean, I don't know, anxiety, stressful. But I remember like one of my best traits. My wife always says, like, no matter like how bad yesterday was, I may go to bed doubtful, but I always wake up hopeful. And I think that's really important. Is that I wake up every single day like, hey, today can be the day.
Most people dream of making it to the NFL. My guest today actually did. But the story we're exploring today isn't about making it to the top. It's about what happens after the dream ends. Because Rick Elmore went from playing in the NFL to sitting down wondering, what am I supposed to do now? Today, Rick runs a successful company, helping businesses generate leads and build relationships. But the real story isn't the business. The real story is the moment when the identity you've spent your whole life building suddenly disappears. Rick, welcome to What I Wish I Knew at 30.
Thanks for having me, Fran. It's great to be here.
I'm looking forward to this conversation. I've only recently got involved in the NFL. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, and my daughter's partner is I would say, one-eyed Dallas Cowboy fan. So he spent he spent a bit of time trying to explain to me the NFL. So I've really, really enjoyed that. And so, Rick, let's go back to the beginning. Every kid who plays football dreams about the NFL. At what age did that dream start becoming real for you?
Sure, great question. So I grew up in California in the United States. I had my childhood trauma when I was 7. My father passed away. What my mom did, and I'm so thankful for what she did. She's kept us busy and just got us involved in sports. I think it's really important for kids to get involved in sports because it really helps kids start to develop these interpersonal skills that they'll carry out for the rest of their lives. Know how to work with a team, work through challenges, dealing with failure, persistence, perseverance, all these things that they'll carry, a lifetime. But it wasn't really until I got to high school. My first couple of years playing football, I just got my butt kicked. I don't know, just it takes a year or two to kind of get used to it. Putting on the helmet, putting on the pads. I was a bigger kid too, and you play with kids based on weight, not on age. So I always had to play with older kids. It was, when you're 9 playing with 11-year-olds, that's a pretty big
Oh,
difference,
wow, that's a huge
and
difference.
it is. And but I lost some weight. I got to start playing with some kids my age, and then, I started getting used to it. But it wasn't until high school. I remember my freshman year, I played on varsity. So I was a big kid who played on varsity. So that was like a ninth grader playing with like 11th and 12th graders. But I went to a small school in California. But I had a really good season. I had like 25 quarterback sacks or 26 quarterback sacks. It's like where a defensive player goes and tackles the quarterback behind the line of scrimmage. It's the equivalent to like a quarterback throwing a touchdown, like Tom Brady throwing a ball to a receiver and they score. And I was at our awards assembly, after that year, and I was getting all these awards, like, conference awards, state awards, and I had no clue like what they meant. But my coach came up to me, like shook me. He's like, Rick, like wake up. You don't realize what you just did. Like you need to like pay attention to this. Like you have opportunity. So it was probably like at 15, and I started playing when I was 9. So it took me about 5 or 6 years. But when I was about 15, I kind of like, hey, I have an opportunity here, and it's my ticket to go to college. I was just like, I can go to college. I was the first person in my family to go to college. So again, I come from humble beginnings. A single mom who ended up marrying my football coach. And he's a great stepdad, and yeah, it was just it was one of the I'm so thankful that it happened. But went to the University of Arizona and had a good career. I led the Pac-10, which is like our conference in sacks my junior and senior year. But I was a try hard guy. I wasn't like physically gifted, even though I'm a tall guy. Like these guys who play like in the national NBA, NFL, National Football
They're
League,
enormous.
they're enormous. They're monsters. They're aliens. I'm telling you, like they don't look like they're human. Like they have long arms, wide shoulders, wide backs. Super muscular. And I was just like a tall guy who tried really hard. But I'd rather be a guy who tries hard than somebody who just relies on talent alone. Because we had this saying in our locker room: hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And I'm 38 years old now, and that couldn't be more true. There's people that are more gifted, more talented, have more resources, come from money, that have all the advantages in the world, but they don't work hard. And if you don't work hard, and working hard is very specific to us individually, like it looks different for everybody. But I just did everything that made me successful as an athlete and transferred it to my working career.
Mm,
Just showing up first, being obsessed with the mission. What is my job? I want to be the best at what I do. I want to track and performance. I want to be on the top, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to do that. And that's just has always been like instilled in me. Doesn't matter if I was 9, I still was a hard worker.
yeah.
But it's even more important now. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. I want to lead by example. I want to show them like, hey, like you can recreate yourself. Because I used to be Rick Elmore, the athlete, for 20 years. I was Rick Elmore, the
Yeah.
football player.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you have like this identity crisis and you're not that person anymore. You have to reinvent yourself. Like sports aren't forever.
No.
And you're going to have a whole career of 40 plus years to go do something else after you're done playing. And it was just always important for me to make that transition successfully. No matter how it was going to be done, I was going to figure it out.
And I mean, when you going back to, that 7-year-old boy, I mean, that was, as you said, I mean, that your tragedy occurred then when you lost your father. And, how did that affect sort of everything else going forward?
Sure. Yeah, that's a deep loaded question. How I process very internally. I was quiet. I held all this anger and rage inside, like just didn't make sense. I was confused. I didn't know my mom did a phenomenal job. I love her to death. She's very supportive, did everything that she possibly could. Very thankful for her. But how what my outlet was football, and why I fell in love with football. And I always joke about this. I played soccer, I played basketball, but what I loved about football is like you can hit somebody and not get in trouble. So like, I could take out this anger like on the field, and it was like a release. But I always loved it. And um it's really important that you find that thing for you that is like it's like a release. Some people it's reading, some people it's poetry, some people it's art, some people it's sports. Some You just got to find what that is. And when you find it, you can't let go of it. You got to keep fanning that flame. You got to keep pursuing it. You got to pursue your passion. And if you can figure that out, like that's what's going to help you push through the hard days. And I was lucky I found that at 9, 10 years old. And then when I got done, it took me like when I got done with playing football, it took me like 6 or 7 years to like figure out my entrepreneurship journey. I did the whole corporate thing. I did corporate sales, had a lot of success there as top 1% or top 5 sales rep in the company at the 2 companies I worked for, but I just wasn't satisfied. And I went back and did my MBA, just searching. I was just like, this isn't what I'm supposed to do. I don't want to go be a CEO of a 5,000 person company. I don't want to do the corporate ladder. Like, I want to go do something else. So, like, the journey was to go find it. And I think this is important too for a lot of people. What you seek will find you within your journey. So, as long as you don't stop, right? If you just sit there and you're scrolling, doom scrolling, and you're not searching, you won't find it. It's your job to get out there and go network, talk to people, try new things, be uncomfortable. Don't be afraid to fail. And if you can do that, like you're going to reinvent yourself and you're going to find what's meant for you. And that's what I did. I never planned to do what I do now. I'm a football player, athlete, sales guy who started a robotics engineering, software development, industrial automation business. And I was passionate about the problem we were solving and the idea that a robot can hold a pen and scale handwritten notes. I just thought that was so cool. And it was just so fascinating to me. And it's just kept me interested and engaged for the last decade.
That is cool. I mean, when you look at, I mean, your identity, as you said, was about being a player, competitor, and athlete. So football was a core part of your identity. And then who were you outside of football during that time?
My whole personality was was an athlete. I had this coach in college. I remember, when you get a scholarship, being a student athlete is important. At least back then, now it's like a little different. It's like NIL and you make money in college. But I had this coach who always used to say that school's number one, football's number two. And I just that was waking up. You just treated your entire life like you're an athlete. I mean, I wouldn't do things because I was afraid to. If I didn't want to go to parties and get in trouble, because if I got in trouble, that means I wouldn't play. Or I wouldn't go do like risky things. Go do like extreme sports because I was like, if I get hurt outside of football, I'm not going to play. So I mean, I lived my life 24/7, like with the mindset I'm an athlete. I got to train to be an athlete. I got to eat like an athlete. I got to sleep like an athlete, recover, everything. And it's a little different now because I have kids and a wife, and you have a family outside, so you got to compartmentalize it and have a little bit more balance. But when you're 15 to 25 years old, you have that time to just completely engulf yourself in what you're doing.
Yeah, amazing. So, did you ever think about life after the game during that time?
I didn't. When I was in college, I was like, I think I have the talent to play, until I'm 30. And if I play until I'm 30, I'll go through 2 or 3 contracts. That will be like generational wealth money. I thought I was going to do it. Everything's kind of worked out because I just kind of forced it to. I kind of like will my way to my goals, if that makes sense. I just like, like will it into existence by just working hard and doing everything I can to make it happen. But the NFL stands for not for long for a reason. Like most people, yeah, most people last 1 season or 3 at the most, and I played 3, so I had the very typical 3-year NFL career. But yeah, I thought I was going to play for a long time, but that's not what the plan was, or that's not what the universe had planned for me. And yeah, I went through a little bit of an identity crisis, but it's just really
Oh, sure.
important. Yeah, it's really important. Like when you have those moments where you're like, I don't know what to do. It's like you can process the feeling. You can think about it, feel it. It's not like, hey, ignore it and bury it. Like you got to process it, work through it, but it's important just to keep moving. And
Mm,
I think most people, they kind of get like analysis paralysis. They get freaked out. They
mm,
kind of get numb and they don't take action. And it's the people who take action every single day. It doesn't matter if it's a fraction of a percent better. It's just important that you take one extra step every single day towards your goals.
100% agree. Take us back before we go into that identity journey and where you ended up and what you're doing now. Take us back to the moment that you realized you'd made it with the NFL. What did that
Oh, I
feel
made
like?
it. Yeah. I got drafted late, so I got drafted in the 6th round. So, I remember. I mean, I had like a draft party at my house. It was very stressful. It was like a 3-day draft. I didn't get drafted until the 3rd day, but it didn't matter. I got the phone call, and like my whole house like blew up, excited. Like, oh, then you see the name go across the TV. Like, oh, Rick
Yeah.
Elmore getting drafted. And it felt good, but it was very fleeting. Because I knew it was like the work was just starting. And I've learned to kind of refocus that because I still kind of have the same mentality. Like as we've reached different milestones, like in this business, like um it's just going to be another milestone. But what's important is to sit there and like look back and say like, look how far I've come. I'm proud of where I'm at. I'm proud of what
Mm,
I've built, but I'm not done. And I'm nowhere near done. Like this won't be the first thing or the last thing I do. I still have 30 years in my professional career, but I'm very proud of what I've done up until this point. But just to know, just like I hate to even say the word never be satisfied, because like I'm proud of where I've come, but I know I just have so much more potential in me to keep moving forward.
yeah. Did you feel, and do you now feel like pressure to prove yourself?
Um, I always answer this question like this. I think 9 out of 10 people won't even get started. So I think most people don't get started because they're afraid of what their peers are going to say, their family. Um, 9 out of 10 people won't even get started. And then like a year into it, nine out of those 10 people actually started will quit. So I'm 8 years into my entrepreneurship journey, and I'm so past worrying about like what other people think. I've already proven that I can do this. Now I'm really just like focused on my business, my goals, my own personal development, what I need to do to get better, what I need to do to grow this business, what I need to do to be a better father, a better husband. And I think that as you get older, you just like, you stop worrying about what everybody else thinks and you start just really focusing on yourself.
Mm.
And by you focusing on yourself and you getting better, that's going to help everybody else around you get better. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah.
I just
But-
think it's really, yeah, I'm
oh,
sorry.
no, sorry, go on.
No, I just think it's really important as you get older to just really focus on yourself. I mean, and we all, I mean, into our 60s and 70s, like we can still get better, like mentally, emotionally,
Yeah.
physically, right? And if we take care of ourselves, that allows us to be like ready to operate at a high level at things that we're doing. So if it's business or relationships, that's really what it's about. I feel like, um, we're on this planet to, be builders, to be connectors, to be in a community. And it's up to us to be the best that we can so we can show up the best for everybody around us.
I think that's absolutely true. And I think for, anyone listening to this, it's one of the most important things because when we take that responsibility ourselves to be a little bit better each day, whether it's the things that, I mean, we have so much access now to everything, whether it's podcasts, whether it's amazing books that are coming out every day. Uh, we have every opportunity. And, taking that is, if you have that thirst for constant learning, I think the world really can take you wherever you want to go. I don't think there's any restrictions on anything that you want to do. I had no idea I was going to start a podcast 6 months ago. Here I am talking to people all over the world. But for every athlete, the dream eventually does end. And when it does, everything changes. So I know we touched a little bit on this before, but I think this is a really important part for our listeners to listen to because it is about that identity crisis. It's that identity change, everything that you've built. So what was that moment like for you?
Oh, that was, I think it's hard for everybody. I remember when I got cut and I drove from Green Bay to Arizona, which is a pretty Green Bay, Wisconsin to Tucson, Arizona, and it's like a 2-day drive. And I just remember sitting there driving back, it's like, oh, my life's over. Like, just being kind of like in that deep, like depression, whatever it is, sadness. I like, hey, something potentially can be done. But I think what's really important is to know, or at least like vocalize it so other people don't feel alone. Like you can be in that situation for weeks or months or even years. But what's really important is to keep moving forward. And I know I've said this earlier, but yeah, I had a real identity crisis. I had just all my skills, at least what I thought back then was like I was literally born to be a football player,
Mm,
but I didn't realize all these other skills that I was building that were going to transfer to success life after sport.
mm.
And I had 2 decades of working on those skills that were going to be valuable to me life after sport. And it just took time for me to figure that out. Uh, Man,
What
I
did it feel
remember
like emotionally?
sad. I mean, sad. I wouldn't say depressed. Um, I was anxiety. I mean, I don't know, anxiety, stressful. But I remember like one of my best traits, my wife always says, like, no matter like how bad yesterday was, I may go to bed doubtful, but I always wake up hopeful. And I think that's really important is that I wake up every single day like, hey, today can be the day. Like, and today can be the day every single day. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like 1% better or it can completely change your life. And I know, like, if I just show up every single day with that mindset and I don't quit, like, you got to learn how to rest, not quit. A lot of people, like, they get overwhelmed, stressed out, and they quit. You got to learn how to rest. Like, take a few days off, take a week off, but don't quit. Because if you quit, you never know, right? You only lose when you quit. And like that's why like I felt like I've been successful because I just don't quit. I persevere, I push through. But it's just really important to keep going. But yeah, it was really I mean, it was really, I would say, a dark time. It was
Yeah.
hard,
Did you
like having
feel
that like
lost at that time?
lost, very lost. I didn't know it. I didn't have a family that was going to give me a business. I didn't have like direction, like, oh, I'm going to follow my father's footsteps. I was the first person to go to college. I wasn't going to receive money. Like I knew if I was going to do something with my life, it was fully my responsibility. And when you take that ownership, right, you don't have like you got to burn the boats, right? Like,
Mm,
hey, I can't
mm.
sit there and rely on plan B or C. There's only plan A, and I'm in charge of plan A, right? I got to make plan A happen, and I got to commit to it, and I got to stay dedicated to it, and I got to see it through.
So when all of that happened, and obviously a lot of athletes talk about how difficult that transition can be, and it is. We see it play out all the time, in all sports when people come to the end because suddenly that structure disappears, the identity disappears, and I guess in some respects the the spotlight disappears. What was the hardest part of that transition?
When you're at least at a high level, for 10 years, between college and NFL, you're used to number one, yeah, like I don't even want to say celebrity, but like you are like you're playing on a big stage, right? So like all our games are in front of 50,000 people, nationally televised. Like you walk down the street, people know who you are. Like one day that's all gone, right? Like how are you going to like manage that mentally? And I think there's like an acceptance. You got to accept like this isn't forever, and you got to have like the maturity as an adult to know like, hey, that was a period of my life. That's a chapter of my book, and I got to take that as a springboard and use that momentum to keep building this book of life or this for the next chapter. And that's just what I tried focusing on doing. I was like, hey, I'm going to use this momentum. I'm going to use all these skills. I'm going to use my connections. I'm going to use everything that I've learned to push forward to this next chapter. This next chapter may be ugly, and it was pretty ugly. I was figuring out how to do sales. I was figuring out how to be a part of a corporate job. Being in a locker room with football players is completely different than being in a corporate meeting like room. It was like completely different.
Yeah.
And then going back to school and doing my MBA, that was super scary because I was never a good student. I did whatever I needed to do to stay eligible because I just wasn't interested in what I was learning. I was like having to memorize stuff for tests. But when I went back into my MBA, it completely changed my life because I was interested in business and I knew I wanted to start a business someday. So I became like obsessed. Like I was like, I'm going to sit there and dedicate. Like I'm learning about marketing. I'm learning about finance. I'm learning about, P&Ls and how to do EBITDA and how to do like all these things that were new to me. So it was just like exciting. Right. And everybody can do that. And it doesn't have to be an MBA. Again, it can be like you're a photographer and you take a new photography class, or you learn how to use a new camera, or you're learning how to take your photography business from offline to online. And you're taking what you're passionate about. I was passionate about learning how to start a business eventually, and that was just one avenue of doing it. So yeah, I just took again that last chapter and I turned the page and I went to the next chapter. It was, I call it beautifully ugly. It was beautiful but ugly because I was like running around trying to figure it out. But it took me six years, and I
Wow.
just didn't stop. I just didn't stop. But I luckily I found my passion. And I was able to continue, build a business over the last 8 or 9 years, and I'm now recreating this new chapter. Of Rick 3.0, I guess.
And what did that period teach you about resilience?
I would use the word resilience. You're gonna have to deal with frustration. Trying new things. You're not gonna see the point of it sometimes, and you got to see it through. When I was at Stryker, which is a large medical company, and I was like an associate sales rep my first year. And I was like, man, I just came from being at like the elite top. I was in the NFL. Only 53 guys make a team. There's 32 teams. There's only like 1,600 players in the world that get to play at this level. And now I'm at the bottom again. I was like, now it's very humbling, right? So you go from being like this person that's at an elite level now down to the very bottom, under the totem pole. I wasn't even the bottom of the totem pole. I was under. I was running and picking up coffee for people, taking lunches to people. I'm just like, I don't get it. But it's like I had to go through that to learn the business. I had to learn how to do the job. I had to learn how to, you know, take my skills and apply it to the job to make me successful. So it takes time. And I think that's what most people underestimate is how much time it takes to be successful. It took 15 years of developing football skills to make it to the NFL. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year. And I'm definitely one of those people. I'm like, oh, we're going to do this year. And we get like 30% to the goal. But what most people underestimate is how much they can do in 10 years. And that's like, I'm again a living example of that. 15 years in the NFL, we're 8+ years into this business, and we're just catching our stride. It's a very a really hard business. There's a lot of engineering, a lot of software development. We've had to figure out a lot of this technology. I've had to do patent, like building, like a lot of crazy stuff. But I'm now just getting back to where I feel like, hey, I'm feel like I'm like mid college again. Okay, I'm getting there. And I'm still trying to get to like my NFL version of being an entrepreneur. And I feel like we're close, but I will get there when I'm capable of getting there. I'm not
Yeah.
capable of being like an NFL CEO. I want to get to a $10 million a year business. That was a goal, but I'll get there when I solved enough problems and I become a $10 million CEO, and I am capable of doing that. But like I'm getting there by solving problems and growing every single day. So it's a journey.
Absolutely. And it is a journey and every day is different. But how important was it for you to have gone back to the bottom of the ladder, the bottom of the rungs, to actually climb back up? What has that
Um,
taught?
Yeah, like you said, the resilience, starting over again, it really, I was an athlete. It really like forces you to turn on a different part of your brain. I was like in a older life, I can solve my problems with like physicalness. I can just like train harder, get more muscle, try to get faster. Right. So I was more like, hey, focus on nutrition and exercising. That's going to make me a better football player, but that's different in business. Like now, you got to be a little bit better at communicating. You got to learn different systems, different softwares. You got to solve a different piece of the puzzle that's going to make you successful in life after sports. So it was just a mind transition.
Mm.
And, it was really important to start over because you can't just be thrown. It's like learning how to swim. It's just like you can't be an Olympic swimmer by just jumping in the pool, right? Like you got to start with the floaties, and then you got to learn how to paddle, and then you got to learn how to breathe. I mean, it's just a process. And in order for you to become elite in anything, doesn't matter if it's a sport or a business or a relationship, there's stages, right? And you can't skip stages, right? And if I mean, how, I always say how you win business is how you lose business. Like if it comes easy, it goes easy. If it's earned hard, you'll lose it hard. So you don't want quick wins. You don't want you want it to be earned. And how it's earned is going through the motions. Like you got to go through everything. You got to go through being a beginner, then an intermediate, and then a pro, and then an expert, and then elite. But the only way you go through that is going through the process. And it's really important no matter what you do, like go through that process, you'll grow through it, and then you will evolve and become what you want to become when you get through it.
When you were in the NFL and college football and all of those things, um, a lot of your life would have been very structured. And a lot of that would
Mm.
have been from the external disciplines that were, I mean, of course, your own disciplines because you had to show up and do the work um, and everything else that was involved in that. But what was the mindset shift that you needed to go from that structured, disciplined sporting environment into your actual entrepreneurial journey?
Such a good question. It's incredible, 100% like full ownership of your own life. Some people are waiting for people to save them or waiting for someone to give them the perfect job. When you take full ownership, like, hey, like my success is in my hands, I have to make it work, like that weight is released. It's like,
Mm,
hey, I'm not waiting for something, I'm going to go make it happen. And that's a big, big problem with athletes in that transition. They're just so used to just showing up and doing what they're supposed to do. They're just used to be like, hey, go do this play and run this route and go score a touchdown. So like, yes, coach, I'll go do that. And that's not how life is. Like you still have to work on a team, work with your manager, right? You still have to be coachable, right? But it's up to you to show up every single day. It's up to you to have discipline and integrity to go through your life and make sure you do the right things the right way, even the small things. And I think a lot of people like kind of discount that. They're like, I can kind of get by on like doing 50% of it. But here's another one. How you do some things is how you do all things. Like you can't
absolutely.
pick and choose when you want to be great. And you're not going to be great at everything. So it's like you got to work on your weaknesses. And it's like, hey, I can't be, a great communicator to this person, but completely ignore this person. Like you got to figure out a way to do, be consistent. And
Mm.
a lot of people struggle with that.
Oh, don't they just? And
Yeah.
that is one of the overriding things that I see throughout my coaching is consistency. And people
Hmm.
come to me because they want that accountability and that consistency. And it's immediately kind of thrown back and it's saying, that's your responsibility.
Yeah.
That's the part
Yep.
you bring to this.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. But nothing happens without consistency, without accountability, without responsibility. You don't never truly hit any kind of elite level because you can't.
Nope. You can't. You got to take full ownership of everything. Like, I grew up in the Kobe Bryant era. I don't know if you know who that is, but he was an
I
elite
do.
basketball player for the Los Angeles Lakers. And he had like that Mamba mentality, that's what they called it. And it was just like, he just took extreme ownership over everything.
Yeah.
Every loss, every bad play, we'll get better. That's my fault. I'll be a better teammate, right? And you want those type of people around you, not people who are pointing the finger. You got to, I mean, that's another important thing as you get older is finding the right tribe.
Yeah.
You got to you got to protect your circle and keep people in your circle that are going to grow with you. Some people won't grow with you, and that's a hard lesson in life. You're gonna like your soul is gonna want to be pulled forward for all this growth and all these goals that you want to reach, and some people just don't want to do that. So it's important for you to realize that and make sure that the people that are around you are going to support your growth.
That is such an important point because the people that, as they say, the sum of the five people around you is exactly, whether
Hmm.
you're lifted up or whether you're pulled down. And it's so true. I've seen it so many times, especially when you look at talented athletes. And I love that saying that you said earlier about a talented athlete. What did you say about
Good work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
exactly? That's the one.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
love that because there are so many, and quite often those amazing athletes, those amazing talents are brought down by their environment because they just don't understand that one main point. Somewhere in all of that transition, Rick, you decided to build something of your own. So you walked the walk. You went back into, as you said, being a coffee boy and delivering the papers and everything that you had to do, which would have been incredibly humbling to have come from, the amazing stage of NFL to being back at the bottom. And you decided that it was time to build your own business. And your business now helps companies generate leads and connect with clients. So tell us a little bit about that. What made you believe you could build a business after leaving the NFL?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll tell you the genesis of it. So, again, what you seek will find you in your journey. I was doing my MBA. I was a year into my program, and I had a marketing professor going over all the success rates in marketing, digital advertising, ads, social, email, cold calling, door knocking, everything. And everything was like super like nominal, 12%, 8%, 2%, super low. And then he ends this lecture. It was a 3.5 hour long class. We 2 3.5 hour long classes every Wednesday. And he says this, and it was something that just stood out to me, made sense. He said, "Hey guys, you know what works now better, if not better than ever, is a good old fashioned handwritten note. They're rare. They get open 99% of the time, and the mailboxes are empty. Like nobody is like competing in the mailbox anymore. So like, don't forget to send a handwritten note." I was like, man, that is like such a no brainer. Like, but who has the time to do that? Like, I grew up in the 90s, like before the internet. We used to write notes to our friends. There's some nostalgia there, right? People appreciate it. But I was just like, it took me 2 weeks to sit there and like handwrite just an envelope and put a print like Christmas card in for like 200 of my clients. Like it took forever. I was like, there's no easy way to do it. So in class, I was like starting to Google, I was like handwritten note business. And I was like, why isn't anybody doing this? And like now, hindsight's 2020. I was like, they're not doing it because it's hard and there's no easy way to do this. But yeah, no one was doing it. So I just looked for a robot, and I was like, is there a robot drawing robot, writing robot? And I found a pen plotter in China that I had to order from China, get it through customs, and send it to the US. It was not built. I had to build it myself. And I'm I'm a problem solver. I feel like that's like, if anything, like in through growing a business, I feel like I have a PhD in solving problems, and how I solve problems. So I just ask questions and find the right people who can help me solve it. Like, I'm not an engineer. I just find
Yeah,
engineers. I'm not a software
yeah,
developer. I just find software developers. And most people like are afraid to ask, and most people don't follow up. I'm not afraid to ask, and I'll never stop following up. So it's like, so it's a good mix. But I got some people to help me to put this robot together. I sent out 500 handwritten notes. It took about a month to write them on this really crappy drawing robot, but the response rate was amazing. In my sales job at the time, I had a $50,000 a month quota. I sold like $300,000 in new sales in like 6 weeks. I had doctors calling me like, Rick, thanks for the note. Like, this is cool. Let's schedule a lunch, or hey, let's go
oh
grab
wow,
dinner. Let's talk about this. And like, that's when the entrepreneurial seizure happened. And anybody who's ever started a business understands that, hey, like when you have an idea, you prove it, it works. Like, you have this like thing that goes through your body. Is
yeah,
they call it the entrepreneurial seizure, where it's just like, it is so like soul firing. It just gets you on
yeah,
fire. But yeah, it's been a really hard, long journey. There's no technology to do what we do. We've had to build it all. We've had to do engineering, software development, industrial automation, all customer funded. I'm good at sales and marketing, so like I can find people and sell, but then we take like the profits and reinvest it. But yeah, we have 9 patents on our technology. And all I've done is just continued to like iterate, so like improve on our
yeah,
and then just, you know, study my competitors and make sure that we're staying one step ahead and trying to be objectively different and do something that no one else is doing, and not sell in price. Because I think I said this earlier, how you win business is how you lose business. So if you only sell on price, you'll lose on price. But if you sell on value, you'll lose on value. And it's really hard to lose on value when you are objectively better. And that's what we've tried to be, is objectively better. We have these features, they don't. If you want those features, we're the best option. If you want the cheapest price, we can try, but we're not going to like just sell on price. So yeah, it was just a long, long, long journey. I was committed, to seeing it through. I've had an incredible support group. My parents, my wife, our team here, they've all been completely dedicated. I couldn't have done it without any of them, and I've been really lucky. But it's been really hard. But I like doing
yeah,
hard
no,
things. It,
yeah.
it, it keeps me interested.
So I mean, when you realise that building a business is actually harder than you expected, did you have a moment early on when you thought, "What have I got myself into?"
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, yeah, about a year in, I was just like, why did I leave? It's like I was making really good money.
Yeah.
What did I do? Why did I do this? We just had our first, my son, he was just born. So I was like, if I'm going to do this, I have to do this now. I'm not going to do this when now he's 8. And in sports, I had to take the risk then, but I would not ever, I would never, I would do it again if I lived 1,000 lifetimes. Being an entrepreneur is one of the most personally like growth things that you can do in your life. I feel like I have had 4 40-year careers in the last 8 years, and just what I've had to do. But yeah, there's definitely, in the early days, I was like, why am I doing this? Like, it makes no sense. Like the torture, the pain, the sleepless nights, like the no money, the risk, the debt, it just makes no sense. But I'm like a measure 10 times cut once kind of guy. So I knew if I was going to take risks, they're at least very calculated. I feel like discipline from, being an athlete, of knowing how to be patient. Things take time. I don't have to force it. I'd rather like have slow success over time than quick success, and then not have it, 2 months later. And now I have all this, I spent too much money. Now I have no money. And now I put my business at risk of going under. So yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of doubts, but that's very normal. Everybody has doubts at, many points of their lives, but it's just being committed to seeing it through and having the discipline to finish what you started.
Mm. And what was it specifically that almost broke you in those early days?
Just nothing worked. Like nothing worked. Nothing ever worked.
That would
Like
do it.
yeah, nothing worked. Like technology didn't work. Like people didn't see the value. Like we're a new product, new service, new
Yeah.
idea, new pricing model. The lift to get anybody started was so heavy, but I was just like, hey, if I stay consistent in, SEO, like we're going to drive a lot of organic traffic over time. If, we take care of our clients, we'll get repeat orders, and over time things compound. So like it may be hard in year 1, but in year 3, it's going to be easier than it was in year 1. So I just got to get through this year. And what
Mm.
I did every single year is I just treated like this year I have to do better than I did last year. So I'm not focusing on year 10, I'm focusing on today and just trying to do better what I did yesterday. And like, it's already been 8 years and doesn't feel like it. I mean, it feels like it's been like
Mm,
two. It's just gone so fast. But it's just staying consistent. Anything, it doesn't matter. You can literally teach people how to play violin online, right? If you're really good at something and you do it differently and you take care of people, people are going to notice and your business will grow over time. It's just being dedicated and committed to doing it over time.
yeah. And was that what kept you going?
100%. Yeah, I knew. I mean, it's like the old saying, you build it, they'll come. But it's like, obviously, what I have right now isn't the company or the product that's going to take us to a $10 million company. There's things that we have to do better. We have to have, a more scalable product. We need more automation. We need better engineering. We need better handwriting robots. We need more features that are more, selling points to why they should buy us. So, we
Mm,
do delivery tracking to the mailbox for a handwritten note with a forever stamp, a first class stamp. That's never been done. We do trackable QR codes on our handwritten notes. That's never been done. Our production's automated now. We don't have any humans in the loop. Like that was a really big problem. We used to have to hand stuff every envelope. Like that's been solved. We integrate into 7,000 different softwares. Like now it's easier for people to
yeah,
use us. So we had to
yeah,
remove all these friction points to make it easier, right? But I didn't know this when I was getting started. I thought people were just going to give me like an Excel file with 10,000 addresses and say, go do it. No, that wasn't it. They're like, "Hey, we wanna automate it," or, "Hey, we wanna schedule this," or, "Hey, can you, like, connect to this software?" "Oh, hey, do you have QR codes?" "Hey, can you," and I just listened to what our customers wanted, and then I, like, thought about it, and I was like, "Hey, like, is this something we can do?" And then I would ask other customers, "Hey, like, if we had this, would you think it's, like, a good feature?" And then, like, if it made sense, we implemented it. So it's like the iteration of evolving over time. Like, your version 1.0 or, like, the first chapter of your story is going to look a lot different, at your 10th chapter. And it's just being continued and dedicated to the process of improving over time.
yeah. And I love that. And I think, when you, as you said at the beginning of that, being measured in how you build, because like a lot of companies aren't necessarily aware of their financial information and their and actually what's going on. So I don't know whether that's the same in America, but in Australia it definitely is. And I think when you're disciplined and you have control of all aspects of it, so the measured decisions you can make, what is actually happening. So I mean,
Hmm.
somewhere along that journey, things obviously started working. You started seeing results, bringing in more clients. What was the moment when you thought this is actually going to work?
You know what? I don't know how to explain this mindset. I feel like I show up for battle every single day. Like I don't want to say like business is a battle, but I think when we get like big companies, like for example, we have this brand. They're doing 100-year anniversary. They're sending out a handwritten note from the CEO of this global brand, Fortune 100 company, to 175,000 people, and we're using his handwriting. So, a CEO of a global brand wants us to convert his handwriting and send a note from him to his clients. Like, those are the moments where I'm just like, this is important. Like this product is like we're solving a problem. And like those are like the moments, but there isn't a lot of those moments. Like in life, life can be very mundane. Like building your business can be very mundane. There's going to be weeks or months where just like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I'm in like this swamp of treachery. But there's going to be moments throughout the journey and you got to appreciate them. You got to let them put wind in your sails. And like moments like that, when we have these like, another example, I went into my CPA's office a few months ago and I saw a handwritten note on his mantle, like in his waiting room, and I recognized it, and I was like, "Hey, that looks like one of our cards." And then I went and grabbed it, and I recognized. I was like, "I know that handwriting style. Like, I know this stationery. Somebody used our business to send my CPA note, and he put it on his mantle, and he didn't know it was my company who did it."
What's yours?
So it's like, like those are like the like people are seeing value in what I'm doing, or what we're
Yeah,
doing here, and like those are like the things that keep you moving forward, right? um so it's like but it's important for you to pay attention to those. Like it's not going to be obvious sometimes. Like It's gonna be hidden sometimes, but it's like you have to be
Mm,
aware of it. And when it does happen, like you got to sit there and like appreciate how far you've come, and like what you're doing matters. Like it doesn't matter, whatever you're doing matters. Like if again, if you're teaching violin, you're teaching someone's kid how to play violin. Like to them, it matters, right? And you just got to sit there and like soak that in and allow it to like keep refilling your cup, right? So you can keep moving forward.
the uniqueness of your business is about, obviously it's about lead generation, but it's about connection. And a lot of people may misunderstand sales. And when you're looking out, that what are you building? What is the unique um, message that your handwritten notes give? Not the actual individual messages, but what is that unique selling point that that handwritten note gives you?
Yeah, we're trying to, keep the human connection, like spirit
Mm,
alive. Everything, in the 2010s and the teens, right? It was all about like software. That was like the big thing, software, the internet. The last 4 or 5 years, it's all been about AI. Keeping that physical human connection, like within business, I think it's gonna be something that's gonna stick around for at least like the next 30 years. Maybe my kids, they're 6 and 8. Maybe it'll be completely different. Robots will do everything. But at the end of the day, like when you're doing business, you want to do business like with a person. Like
mm,
relationships still matter in business. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And what's a way to build like trust or a relationship with somebody? Like, do you want another automated email? Like, do you want another automated text message? Do you want to be retargeted on social nonstop? No, that's like annoying, right? We're all inundated with
yeah.
notifications and like digital forms of communication. So when you receive something in the mail, you just can't help but like want to open it. Like when you go to the mailbox and you see all your bills, like you throw that away, you throw the postcards away, and then you have these, notes with a
Yeah.
real pen written message on it. You're like, who sent me that? Right? Like that is a seed that
That's
gets planted in their
exciting.
brain,
Yeah.
right? And then they remember that, right? Think about doing that at scale or completely automated. Like, I can now stay connected to my clients, my team in a way that's authentic, that's tangible, that perception is reality, right? Because we don't use any branding. Like they're gonna think I sat down and sent them a handwritten note. So
Mm.
we're trying to help people like keep that human connection spirit alive. Just with technology, they'll never know you use a service like this, but there is a service that allows you, to sit there and automate, a handwritten note like this. That's simply
And
noted.
what's the most important thing about that? That it actually, what does it build most for your clients?
I think appreciation, human connection. I think that's really what it's building. I don't know if trust, but when somebody sits there and they receive a handwritten note,
Yeah.
you're automatically now going to be in a
Yes,
completely different
connection.
ballpark versus somebody else,
Yeah.
right? I don't know how it is where you're at, but like when you get a Christmas card or a holiday card, like they're on display. Some people save all their thank you cards and they put them on display. So I think it's just like a nostalgic, old school way to build relationships and show appreciation. That's just not normal anymore.
Yeah.
And it's a way that companies can do it. That because we originally started as like a relationship building company, but unfortunately, like every business wants more leads, more sales. So like people do use us for that. But we originally just started like sending thank you cards, birthday cards, and holiday cards. Like that was like our number one product, like for
Yeah.
3 years. But I was like, people want to spend like $100 on that. Like people will
Yeah.
spend $10,000 on a marketing campaign. I was like, ah,
Yeah.
I can't believe we have to do this. But yeah, it's just
Yeah.
keeping that human element in it. And I think it's just about building a relationship because relationships matter in business. And it helps you stand out in a way that most people aren't doing it anymore.
Yeah. And when you look at it, I mean, sales really is just about human psychology.
Yeah. And a
So when
handwritten
you,
note, right? It's the psychology
yeah,
of like, hey, this
exactly.
person sat down and took the time to send me something. They
Yeah.
must appreciate my business. They must really want to work with me.
There's a lot more conversation. There's a lot more goes on in the head when you're actually touching and feeling something than when you're just swiping it. So yeah,
Yep.
no,
And
I
I mean, yeah, these notes get saved, sometimes like they're on the desk for days or weeks. That email gets a 3 second like skim read and it's on to the next annoying email that comes in.
no, absolutely. And that's as you say, I mean, your CPA put his card up on the mantelpiece, so it's there,
Yeah.
which also
Yeah.
means that where you actually build from that, because you never know who's going to come in and see that. Oh,
Yeah.
look at that.
Yeah,
That
you
was
never
good.
know.
No,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So, Rick, this is what I wish I knew at 30. And if you could go back now and sit down across from your 30-year-old self, what would you tell him?
Slow down. Like, good things take time. I remember when my best friend, I talked him into coming and building this company with me. I recruited him from California, and I was like, "Hey, we're gonna build this $1 million company in 1 year. 1 year, we're gonna build this $1 million company. Mark my words. Like, this is it. This is the data. This is how it's gonna get done." Oh my god, it was so much harder to get to $1 million than I thought it was. It takes so much longer, but great things take time. Enjoy the journey. I was so stressed out those first 5 years, thinking I was going to fail. And oh my God, a lot of those probably same identities shift. Oh, now I'm going to have to go back to working in a corporate job. But yeah, just be patient, have discipline. Good things take time. Don't be rushed. You're not competing against anybody but yourself. And just really focus on focus on the task at hand. If you really just get like, I call it like geeking out, like you just geek out, become fascinated about it. If you're passionate about it, take your time with it, and something beautiful will come from it.
And if you had to go back and give like just one piece of advice, what's the most important thing you want that 30-year-old person to have actually really understood?
Oh, I mean, be patient is it, but you know, I would say a secondary thing would be um, you know, don't burn any bridges. You have to have really good relationships. In those rough times, like there's going to be people are going to help you through some storms as well. So I think some people can be short sighted and be transactional. It's really important not to be transactional. You have to really develop those relationships, cherish those relationships, and lean on people when you need them. You don't have to do it alone.
Yeah. And why is that so important?
Because on your hardest days, you're gonna feel like everything's going wrong, everything's against you, like I'm failing, and having that support group, people want to help people. Good people want to help people, and it's important. When you need that help, is to go get it. I didn't realize that until probably 5 years in. I was like, I can do this, um, and you can't. Life is a team sport, and
Mm.
it's important for you to get out there and build a good team, have good people around you, and lean on them. It's like having support in your life. You need support at every stage. Doesn't matter if you're 3 years old or 30 years old. You're going to need support, and it's just really important that you manage those relationships the right way, because relationships will take you far. You can go fast alone, but you got to go. If you want to go far, you got to go together.
Yeah.
Really important.
Yeah. And did you know that back when you were 30, or is that something that you've built?
I learned that. Yeah, I learned that after. I was just like, don't worry, I can do this. I handle it.
Yeah.
I don't need to sleep.
I can do
I'll
everything.
just YouTube it. But no, unfortunately, it took me longer to learn that.
Well, that's one of the things, isn't it? The benefit of hindsight. And I think for
Hmm.
our listeners, one of the important things, and certainly my motivation behind this podcast, what I wish I knew at 30, is that there are so many significant times that, where when we can share the benefit of our hindsight to help others, I think we're doing a good thing. So just some quick answers now. We're gonna have a little bit of fun. What was the best advice you ever received?
Best advice. Oh my gosh. Oh, you just caught me off guard. I've been
Love
that in a
it.
while.
Good. I'm gonna drink my coffee then.
When I think of advice, I think of one-liners. I think I said this earlier. It came from my first manager, and it was like, "How you do some things is how you do all things." Those are the
Yeah.
types of things that stick out. Um, when it comes to advice, man, it's a tough question. Um, I think of books I've read, something that's really helped me in my business is, not getting out of my business. I always used to think I had to do everything. There's a really good book by Michael E. Gerber called E-Myth. I don't know if you've read it, but
Mm, I have.
yeah, it's about, get out of your business and start working on your
Yeah.
business. That's what really helped us scale. I was doing everything, sales, marketing, handling every customer call, because I was so focused on just putting every dollar back into the business, but I was driving myself nuts and it was slowing us
Mm,
down. But
mm.
yeah,
You were the
I would say that.
bottleneck.
Yeah, Yeah, and we're gonna be
It was
bottlenecked at every stage of your business, right? And that's a again, what I said earlier, it's like I'm not a $10 million CEO yet because I have to figure out how to become that, right? But it's systems and it's and having the right people in the right seats. But yeah, I would say those are probably the two things that pop out. You know, it's how you do some things, it's how you do all things, and then yeah, the Michael E. Gerber. That's just a book that I think every young entrepreneur needs to at least read. It's a
read it.
quick, easy read.
What was the worst advice you ever received?
The worst advice I've ever received. Um, Worst advice, maybe from my football coach. You know, school's number one, football's number two, because learning, right? Life, you got to learn constantly.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, and that's what scares me. It's like as I'm getting older, I'm realizing, oh my god, like I'm learning this stuff, but now it's opening up new doors to like new things I don't know. I'm like, oh my gosh, which now focus makes you realize you do need people who have a much more depth in a space that know a lot more. So thinking that you know enough, right? That is a trap that is going to keep you
Uh,
stuck. And there's always more, and that's the personal growth. Like, hey, the more I learn, the more I realize like I don't know that much, and I got to get the people here who are going to help me scale,
yeah,
because they have the expertise on a much deeper level that I don't.
I love that. And what did you believe at 30 that now makes you laugh?
Oh my gosh. I used to be able to force myself through everything, being almost 40, like taking care, like actually what I'm putting in my body matters, like what I'm eating, what I'm drinking, how I'm sleeping. If you don't take care of your body, the older you get, oh my God, your body just screams at you. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to be able to just not go to sleep. I would just like, drink a coffee and just like go through like, go up until like 4 a.m. and then wake up at like 6:30 and do another day. Like I can't do that anymore. Life is a super marathon. It's an ultra marathon. It's not a sprint. Treat that the same thing with your goals. You got to have a 10-year vision, not a 1-year plan. We're not Elon Musk where he's like, oh, I'm going to force all these goals into 6 months. Like we don't have those resources. And yeah, I would say that, I just used to just push my way through everything. And the older I get, I can't do that. I got to be a lot more systematized, more methodical, and holistically approach this versus just like willing my way to success.
What does this are meant to be a quick round, but I want to go a bit deeper into that because what does that allow you to do being planned in that way?
I'm sorry. What do you? Can you read?
And what when you were talking about being more systemized, being more, what does that give you the opportunity to do with life?
Well, it allows you. The older you get, like your body just operates differently. For example,
I love the
I
way you're
take care
talking
of
about this. You're 38.
I am 38, but I feel like I'm glad I learned it. I mean, I was hospitalized from stress multiple times over the last 8 years. I had an internal
Okay,
hemorrhage. I mean, I've had serious health issues. So, I mean, it was
right,
pushed in front of my face because I was just pushing my way through everything. So, I definitely do not recommend that. It will catch
no,
up with you. But like I'm very like I have a very simple diet now. I eat the same foods. I mean, I only drink water. I force myself to go to bed. I'm stretching before I go to bed every single night. I do physical therapy on Sundays to take care of my body. I don't know if anybody has the oh my gosh, what is that app? I do breathing exercises through Headspace. I know if I can physically and mentally take care of myself to show up every single day, I'm going to be able to handle whatever the day throws at me. But if you're putting junk in your body, you're drinking. I mean, I'm not a good alcohol drinker. Like I have one beer, I have a headache. Like it just doesn't mix well with me. But like I want to show up at 100% every day, and I'm going to do whatever I can because if I can show up at 100%, that's going to help me be successful and tackle whatever problems come throughout the day versus showing up at 10% and like
no,
that's not going to be good. So yeah, I think I was lucky too, as an athlete, learning how to exercise and run and actually pay attention to like what my body is telling me, has played a key role in it. But I think that's really important.
percent. I think it's really important. So let's just go back to that. I mean, you talk about, not just stress. So it's not just the normal stresses that we're going through of being an entrepreneur and building life. But I mean, you just said, and if you're comfortable to share this, that you were actually hospitalized through stress.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was going on for you, Rick? What? What happened that got you to that stage?
So this company's been really hard to build. I'm not an engineer, and every step has been really like a huge risk. So, we're a mail company, so margins are already tight. So like we don't have a ton of cash on hand. So when we like spent the cash, I had to know it was going to work, and I never really 100% knew if it was the right answer because what we've built is not an off the shelf solution. Like there's nothing's been built like this before. So it's like we're just hoping our ideas are right. And I would say like my limiting belief that I had back then was like I wasn't smart enough to figure this out. I had no reason to figure this out, but I feel like I've been pretty good at overcoming these limiting beliefs because these limiting beliefs like keep you stuck. They create anxiety, they create stress, ruminating thoughts, racing thoughts, all these things. Yeah, I mean, I've gone to counseling. I have a business coach. People like help me like get over these things. Like you got to get out of your head, and most of us get stuck in our head. Like we just like I don't know. I don't know how to do this. Like this is a huge risk. What happens if it doesn't work? My life's gonna, whatever. So I'm telling you, like, be so like focused on your own personal growth. And like it's really like being a great entrepreneur is more focused about you than it is like the product. Like if you can like come at 100%, but there's a lot that goes into it. You got to have healthy relationships. You got to have the right people around you, positive people around you. You got to get rid of all the negativity. You got to have, a good family life, a good at home life. I mean, most entrepreneurs, yeah, I've been in a lot of entrepreneur groups, like the home life isn't good. Like, how can you have like a really good, successful business if your home life's not good? They're out at bars and they're drinking and they're not sleeping good. It's like, I have a Whoop, I don't know if you know what this is, but it tracks,
Got my
you
whoop
have one?
somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's like
do.
I track my sleep every single night. Like I have a
Yeah.
wind down routine. I don't have my screens on in my room. But like this won't make sense to you until you go through it or you go through it. Like you're gonna be like, oh, that's not a big deal. But it will become obvious when you're going through it or going through it. So yeah, I mean, I feel like that can be a podcast in itself, talking about
Mm.
self-care throughout your life through different stages. I started a business. I did an Ironman. I had a corporate job, and we had a kid. Like our first kid. Like everybody, like you're figuring it out on your first kid. Or my son. Like he was up. He woke up all the time. We didn't know what we were doing. Like trying to figure that out. Start a business, do engineering, run a corporate job, train for an Ironman. Like I was so worn out. I was so worn out. But it's up for you. It's up to you to have the self-awareness to understand like something's not working. Take a step back and like, all right, let me analyze my life. Let me write down everything I'm doing. What do I not have to do? I like doing brain dumps. I don't know if you know this technique, but like when you start feeling
I do,
overwhelmed,
yeah.
yeah, you write everything out, step away from it, go do something that brings your stress down, go exercise, go for a run, go read a book, whatever. Like bring the stress down and then come back to it and then make a list. Like, all right, I'm gonna make like the easiest to the hardest, and then I'm gonna just start taking care of like the little things first and start building this momentum. Then you start getting these endorphins and oxytocin, and then you start feeling good, and then you start taking steps towards figuring out your problems. So, but this is stuff you figure out like as you
Yeah.
start going through this, right? But that's the personal growth. That's the personal development. Like, hey, I need to sleep. So like I feel mentally good in the morning. Like I can't feel exhausted. If I feel exhausted, like I'm gonna be more irritable. I'm gonna have less, pain tolerance. I'm not gonna be able to think clearly through problems, and I have big problems I have to think clearly through. So, um, business is much more mental than it is like actually a business. Like it's really more about you and your own personal growth. And like this again could be its own topic. And I know every
Mm.
entrepreneur, like, because I have a lot of friends who own businesses, and it is so mental. They're so stressed out. They have limiting beliefs. I've been
Mm.
at a $5 million business for, 5 years. I can't grow it, but it's like you can, but you have a $5 million mindset. Like you have to get outside that mindset. You have a limiting belief. There's something that you can do that you're just not doing, but it's up to you to figure that out. How do you do that? You get consulting, you go talk to other companies who are bigger,
Yeah.
see what they're doing, right? It's a puzzle that you have to solve. And like
Mm.
that's what I love about it. It's like you're never done, right? Like it's up to you to continue to grow, right?
Mm.
And how do you grow? Like you solve problems. Like what problems
Yeah.
do I need to solve to get there? Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a
I
great
think
question.
one of the most interesting things that I took from all of that is that, when life finished in the NFL, like your identity was crystal clear. at that point when you were a player, when you went out under those lights and, a 55,000 crowd cheering for you. You knew who you were at that point. You knew what your job was and you knew what you were going to do. And you knew how you existed. There weren't any of these other, I mean, there were, relationships, but your identity was crystal clear.
Hmm.
And the years that followed that talk about realigning that identity to be able to work out who Rick is now. Would you
You're a
agree with
great
that?
podcast interviewer, Fran. Like these are not normal questions I get asked. I love how you dive into like the depths of this. But yeah, having that identity crisis. Yeah, I was Rick Elmore, that person, but it's really important for you to find and own who you are, right? At 38, I know who I am. My number one priority is to be a phenomenal father. I want to be somebody who has integrity, character, leads by example. So when my kids are 25 years old and they have their identity crisis, I can say I've gone through all these things and be a resource to them. Say, hey, this is how you handle it. I love my parents, but my parents didn't go through what I went through. They didn't go through, being an elite level athlete. My mom like inherited a business later on, but she didn't build a business. She didn't like start a business from zero and build, into millions of revenue. So it's like it's really important for me to be a great father, a great leader to my children. And how I do that is I got to continue going. I got to continue growing. I got to continue learning. And I'm Rick Elmore, the entrepreneur now. Like for the rest of my life, I know I'm a problem solver. I'm a creator. I'm a builder. Like I know who I am now, and that's what keeps me going. Like I'm not Rick Elmore, the sales rep. Like that's not who I am. I'm Rick Elmore, the builder, and Rick Elmore, the entrepreneur. And once you like find that again, which I feel like I have, it just gives you more clarity and ownership, right? Of like, hey, I know I'm doing the right thing. I'm in the right place. I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing. Like it doesn't matter if I'm not having the success I think I should be having today. But if I stay consistent, that success will come. But again, spoiler alert, doesn't matter. Like you'll never think it's enough. You'll get to the finish line, right? I always use the example, like I'm a hiker, backpacker guy. Like you're gonna get up to that peak and then you're gonna see another peak. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I thought this was it. But no, I want to get to that one. And then it's gonna be another journey to get to that one. So just taking full ownership of that. But yeah, you do a good job at answering or asking these questions, Fran. You really dive into the nooks and crannies. I love it.
It's it's important for me. I coach in this as well. So I work with a lot of entrepreneurs who kind of don't have the awareness that identity changes. And when that awareness isn't there, all the things that you've described, the stress, the inability to stay consistent in how we're showing up for our businesses, because life changes. And, where we were as youngsters is very different. And I think the more people that I've interviewed, it's become more apparent to me that that age of 30 is actually such a pivotal time for when our fundamental thinking about who we are and what our purpose on this planet is. And I think that is what changes. But not everybody is able to let go of an old identity to allow themselves to build their new identity. And I think when you see, you said you're Rick Elmore, um, the entrepreneur, the builder, but you're also, from what I've heard, you're Rick Elmore, the father, who has a core value that you want to be a role model to your children and you want them to be able to, and all of those things are part of that identity, and being able to align those things is what makes us, I believe, the most powerful, whether it's in business, in relationships. And, your business is in the business of relationships. So you understand that part. And I think, it's those are the things which give us, and and I know from myself that when we have that alignment, and it's a work in progress, we are always a work in progress. And I think when we have that growth mindset, it just allows us to grow so much quicker than
It
stay where
does.
we are.
It does. I think what you were just saying, it's really important for us to like let go of who we were. Yeah, I think of shedding, right? Like you're evolving, right? It's like, hey, this is who I
Yeah.
was, you know, this is what I've done, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? That was
Mhm.
version whatever of me, but I am now evolving to this next version of me. And you learn, right? And that's another thing is like you have to learn from your mistakes. Like you can't make the same mistake, 12 times. That's
No.
not good. You got to
Well, you
learn
can,
like, hey,
but
that
that's
didn't.
called a cycle.
Yeah, you just can't get stuck in that cycle. And I that's another thing. I try not to make the same mistake twice. I'm not saying I don't do that. We all have our issues, right? But I think what's important for progress is like learn from your own mistakes. Again, community, having friends, learning from other people's mistakes. That's like a really high form of intelligence, is being able
Yeah.
to learn from other people's mistakes so you don't make it at all, right? Like, hey, like some people like ignore like, lessons. They won't read, they won't, pay attention, like, "Oh, that didn't work right, I probably won't do that, right? That didn't feel right." So it's really important, like, let go and learn and move and evolve and keep doing that. It's just a constant, like, evolution. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that. I love that, Rick. So let me finish with this. You've experienced something most people never do. You've lived a dream and then you had to rebuild your identity afterwards. So if someone is listening right now, like they're starting over in life, what would you want them to know?
Um, Chase your passion. Um, it's really important. You only get one life. You want to wake up with your soul on fire. Find your entrepreneurial seizure moment, whatever that is. And you don't have to be an entrepreneur, but if you're gonna, you work for your dream company, find your dream job, find your dream hobby, your dream passion, whatever it is. Go find it, and you're gonna find it by seeking it. And seeking it takes action. You can't sit in the moment and hope that it's going to come find you. And when you do find that, you're going to wake up every single day with your heart on fire to attack the day. And that's what's going to help you push through all the hard times. Like you're going to go through hard chapters, hard seasons. You know, we all do it. But if you can have that, you're going to have a North Star, and that's going to help you keep pushing forward no matter what.
And I hope everybody hears that because when you find your passion, life is so much more fun and enjoyable for everyone. Rick Elmore, former NFL player, entrepreneur, and someone who reminds us that sometimes the most important chapters of life start after the dream ends. Rick, thank you so much for joining me on What I Wish I Knew at 30. It's been a wonderful conversation. I've really enjoyed just learning a little bit more about you. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. This was seriously an amazing, amazing podcast. Thank you.
Thank you so much.